Getting deep now, guys. Doing okay here. Big 11 top left. 27 progressive super knockout bottom left. 33 2 red buy, 1 add-on with chip leader in that one top right, and the $11 rebuy bottom right. It's got a 25k guaranteed. It's a decent pull. Oof. Don't want to bet that much. For some reason the HUD just seems like it died on me. No idea why. Just moved tables, did I? No, I don't think so. Not sure what's happening there. Top left, pretty weird hand. Seems like he's sort of repping the nothing. It's a pretty close one. I don't quite... Do I want to re-raise here? If I was going to, it'd be probably this amount. 116. Yeah, I think I will. It's pretty close, but it makes us look committed. I don't think he's going to raise too often as a bluff. Maybe never. I mean, it's pretty ballsy if he's jamming like King Jack there and just is like, no, you don't have it. Now, having said that, we wouldn't necessarily always raise with the ace if we had it. We might just call and hope that he follows through on the turn and barrels it off. The reason why I was hesitant is because he's defending on the tightish side, so I think he can have an ace. The reason why I decided to go with the 3-bet on the flop in the end is just because it only needs to work 50% of the time, and I felt like it would work a little bit more than that, because a lot of players in that spot, if he has an ace like ace-10, they just check call. They don't necessarily check raise. So I think it's close. In an $11 buy-in, I think players are quite often going to rep the nothing. You see it quite a lot. And that's a typical board texture where it happens, where they're like, hey, you don't have an ace, I'm going to check raise with my queen 10. But they don't think, you know, multi-level thinking, they don't think next level, like, what's he going to put me on if I raise on an ace 3-3 board after defending the blind? Is he really going to think I have a 3? Is he really going to think I have a big ace that I want to raise with? And if I had those hands, maybe I would, you know, trap with them anyway and just let him maybe bluff. And so that's sort of the concept in a nutshell. You know, it was a fair few chips to risk, but like I said, I do think it's going to work a reasonable percentage of the time. Just like this C-bet. It doesn't have to work too often. I think if I get a... Well, that's a pretty good card. If he's got a set, it's just bad luck now. And I think I will barrel. And just try and set it up for a kind of a river jam here. He's going to have spades some of the time, King 10 spades, stuff like that. But I think if he's got 9-10 suited, pocket 7s and 8s, I don't think he's folding. And we're not folding. So I'm just going to shove it in. Yeah, it's ace-9, so... I mean, that's what it looked like. 20 to 30. Just going to have to fold that. So it's kind of annoying we bluffed before because we might have got even more value, but we got our chips back, so that's good. And that's just, you know, common $11 players. Calls a little bit loose pre with the ace-9. No plan of folding really. I mean, he just snapped it really. Well, I actually didn't snap. There was a slight pause. Because when there was a slight pause, I was like, oh, that's good. He definitely doesn't have the flush. Because I think he just would have, well, unless he likes a good slow roll. But he called pretty fast with a 9. But having said that, I mean, it's not like he's got nothing. I mean, he does have a hand. 6, 25. It's a bit too big, is it? I think I'm going to bet a little bit bigger there than I normally would. It's probably not completely necessary. I mean, I could have bet 35. The only reason why I did it is because it puts my stack under 200k, and so if he's thinking about bluffing, I think we'd just look more committed. And I just feel like if we bet small here, it just gives him a little bit of a kind of a re-click. You know, if we make it 35, he might just make it, you know, 90. And it doesn't really have to work very often to be profitable, obviously. I just wanted to try and close the door on him. It's not something I would normally do, but I just think in that particular situation, we've got a guy that doesn't fold to a lot of 3-bets, looks a bit sticky, steals a lot over the fairly limited sample that we have. It just kind of looks like he might be a bit of a player, which, you know, I just kind of mean like I think we can raise here too. You know, just a guy that doesn't you know, just gets it on. You know, he's here to play, gets involved, gets sticky, loves a good bluff. And I just wanted to try and make it look like, you know, that under 200,000, you know, I think it just makes us look like we're in the 100,000s, and if he raises, you know, it just puts him in an ugly spot, because if we jam, you know, he's almost has to call off. This is a really weird spot. I will raise it. It's the reason why it's weird is because the guy who's limped on the hijack isn't playing many hands. And so it's a little bit worrying that he might actually be trapping, and he snap folds. That's why I said it, because I knew once you say it, they're going to snap fold. If I had said he was always folding, then he would have snap jammed. It's a reverse psychology, the poker gods. You gotta make sure. Once you say, you know, something, a lot of the time in the past we've seen they do the opposite. It's not actually that often it happens. It's just funny when it does. It's just amusing when you say this guy can never jam and then he snap jams, or he can never fold and then they snap fold. It's part of the fun. So yeah, I mean, the progressive knockout, not much we could do there. We did have the Jack-9 suited when we jammed just under M6 before, M5.8. And yeah, I mean, Queen 8. Yeah, not much to say about it, really. It was an easy jam, and we didn't get there, and that's the end of it. We've got a couple of chances here. I mean, I don't want to jinx us or anything, but we're 7 of 20 in this one, and there's 5.8 up top. So, and it doesn't look like there's any good players left. I say that kind of a bit loosely, because I don't know these guys, so that doesn't mean just because I don't know them they're not good. But it just means they're a little less likely to be a regular player since I don't have any history with them. I gotta be honest, I don't know if I really trust this guy's check. He's been c-betting a lot over the percentage that we have. Over the hands that we have, 109 hands, not many. But he's been sticky and c-betting. And now he goes ahead and half pots it. I think I'm just going to let him have this one. You know, it almost looks like he's checked to like get tricky with like a jack to check raise, and now he's angry that the spade and an overcard hit, and so he's betting pretty hard. I might be reading way too much into that, but who knows? Maybe he's got 6-8 flop bottom 2 and tried to get a little bit tricky on us. Be a bit unorthodox. Probably reading way too much into it. It's probably got ace X, checked flop because he's scared, and then just decided he's going to stab turn. So we got M10 there, just over M11, and yeah, I mean it's a good table, good players left. We've got the big stack on our right. It's good times. Top left, big 11. Never won this tournament. It's one of the few daily tournaments that I haven't won. Actually, it's maybe one of the only daily tournaments I haven't won, to be honest. Well, other than like $1 rebuys and $3 rebuys, where there's like, 10,000 players. This is pretty close here. I'm going to go for it. We got the big blind. He's M7, so we get good leverage against him. The guys behind are not 3-betting at particularly high frequencies, but you do have to be very careful, and I think the stack size aligned fairly well. Now that I've said that, one of these guys is definitely jamming, but I think the stack sizes behind are aligned reasonably well to allow us to open a pretty marginal hand from early position. This guy's tight. This guy we get good leverage against. He's defending 0%. Now that I've said that, of course he defends. But this is actually how you get a lot of chips in these buy-ins. Is actually just through, c-betting like that and getting snap folds. It's just that sort of fine balance, between accumulating and donking off. In that instance, we had good leverage against that player from the start. He was likely to be in sort of a past that threshold of where he's going to play too much post-flop, so he's going to fold a lot pre-flop. If he does call, he's probably just calling to hit like he was and just snap folding. He's not really in a position to give us too much resistance because he's got that stack size where for him to continue in the hand, he's going to likely be committed. And so that's just that threat, that pressure that we can apply at this stage of the tournament to guys with that stack size. And I think that in that particular instance, with a tightish players behind, with stack sizes that are fairly vulnerable, it was a pretty good spot to open. It was actually a really good spot because this is one of the tightest tables I've actually been on for a while. That guy that defended is actually loose, but he just hasn't defended any big blinds yet. But he's actually raising a bit and limping a bit as well, so he's likely a big fish. And this guy's got his mobile device icon, smartphone. So that's always good to see. Yeah, because, you just don't see many grinders, 20 tabling on a smartphone. It's rare to see. But you do see a lot of fish, like watching, The Matrix, watching a movie, and playing a bit of poker on a smartphone at the same time with their, feet up, relaxing at home, having a whiskey or a wine or something, having a bit of a bash. And it's why, I said it kind of looks like we're in a pretty good position here in these tournaments. 13 of 54, 11, almost 12k up top in this big 11 left side. I'm still going to go for a while though. Pretty good stack depth because it's 31.5k in there and the average is 441,000. So it's around an M14-ish average M. And so that's not too bad for this stage. And that'll probably be, I would say that'll be around maintained until the end. It'll probably increase when it's shorter handed. When we get shorter handed, players will be a little bit deeper, but just because players tend to bust out faster when it's short-handed, and therefore more chips will be spewing around a bit quicker than this full ring, which is quite slow action per level. 15-minute levels. 10-minute levels, I lied. It's pretty close here. I think I will let that one go. And I think I will just jam on this guy. I mean, he's only M4, so, you know, he's defended with the correct range, and as it was, we just had to jam it, and he had to call, and he had to win. 8-7 off. I mean, we can jam that up to M10. And he's probably not calling with the correct range too, which is always a bonus. I mean, he's probably calling, you know, just speculating, just guessing. But I'm just thinking that he's probably not calling with the correct range. There's probably some hands that he should be calling with that he's probably folding. I could be wrong, but maybe he's just a loose guy. Doesn't do a lot of folding. So this is a pretty good spot to raise here with the King 10. And I think if this guy opens, I might have gone for a 3-bet. It would have been pretty close. This guy here is probably the main concern, just because he's got a few chips. And he's semi-active with these stats. 3-bet buy position. Hasn't really been 3-betting that much. Has from the small blind a little bit. It looks very 3-bet-ish. But at the same time, I don't 3, 4, 5. I don't really. I think it's 12, 25, 630. Yeah, it's pretty close, but I don't really want to go for it, to be honest. Just based on the information we have, he's just doesn't appear to be getting that out of line. But it's close. I mean, it looks like a standard sort of button 3-bet. But yeah, if he's a bit more aggressive, I would you know, just re-raise and maybe even just shove, depending on the level of aggression that he's showing. 20, 36. Yeah, interesting that he just shoves there. It's not necessarily bad because he's only got M sort of 7s behind. It may actually show that he's thinking and thinking, well, these guys are only M7 behind, so I can just shove all in. So bottom right, it's looking like just a min-raise call off if we get jammed. Just try to get some action. If they call, you know, they might call with some hands that we dominate, like King 9s and, you know, Queen 9s and Queen 10s and stuff. They might this guy might defend with in the blind. And if he does, excuse me, if he does jam, obviously we don't love it. He's not that loose, but I think King Queen suited at that stack depth, you know, where we just look like we're stealing. He's around M8 in that first pivot, standard sort of re-steal stack. We would have got it on. Eight of 16. Definitely want to maintain 3-betting if we can, get leverage against these guys. It's pretty important, I think, at this stage to try and maintain that aggression, to keep yourself going, because the blinds are going to get pretty big, and a few orbits pass and blinds go up, and if we're just at that stack size, it gets pretty vulnerable. You know, we have M10 bottom right and M13 top left. Top left is a little bit better of a situation. I mean, obviously we've got a few extra M, but the thing about M10 is that next level we're really in that sort of vulnerable stage where we're getting short, so we want to keep attacking and try and avoid getting too low. We want to try and maintain a healthier stack if we can. Gives us a little bit more maneuverability, a few more options. Increases the skill edge because we'll have more chips to play with, rather than being in a very sort of basic, almost like a toy game simple to solve sort of do we jam or do we fold sort of basic scenario without a lot of really thinking required, only knowledge of jam ranges, which is obviously just something you can use a chart for and you could train a monkey to do. And so the skill really comes from the wielding a stack, and it's hard to wield a stack when you only have a short stack. I think I'm going to bet here. I mean, our hand is just really bad, so I like to bet it. You know, if we had like a king 3, I might like to check it because we have showdown value, but I mean, we just had nothing going on really. So I was just hoping they gave up. I mean, but I don't really expect them to give up on that board much, so it was a little bit kind of weird that they checked. But at the same time, I mean, I think the stab doesn't have to work that often, so I went for it. Interesting, the button player just calls here. He's probably got like a jack queen a lot, hands like that. So I'm going to go ahead and fire out here. Kind of annoying not to have stats here, you know, because we don't know what his flatting range is. I'm sure the HUD will come along. Well, here it is. Here it comes. So we don't have any history on him anyway, so we do have 137 hands on this guy, 400 on this player over here, 100 up here on this guy, but on that particular player we were in the pot against them. We don't have any history, so 17. So yeah, that's that. Just have to learn as we go. So it's getting a little bit awkward. I mean, top left, we still have that, you know, we can still open a little bit, we can c-bet, we can maybe double barrel, we can 3-bet, attack openers with 3-bets. We can open them, and if we get 3-bet, we can 4-bet. We have a lot of you know, weapons at our disposal, but bottom right, this is really what I'm talking about. We're kind of losing that now because we're getting so short. So 30, 40, 30, 46. I think I'm going to fold there. This play's been pretty tight. I think there's we're just at that stack depth where I don't really want to flop a pair and stack off, and if we do flop a decent pair, we're not folding. So I don't want to. If we were a bit shorter, I would call, and if we were deeper, I would call. But we're just at that really annoying stack depth. Yeah, I think I'm gonna fold it. It's annoying. One player to beat, but the old 9 deuce off. They might be calling too tight, so there is definitely some merit to jamming if they're not calling, defending with the right range. And that's sort of what's going through my head. Is that over the 847 hands we have on that player, they're only defending 17%, which does raise the argument that maybe it's profitable to jam any 2 in that spot. But at the same time, I mean, they're only M3. It's hard to imagine they're not opening their range up a little to a small blind bully. So King Jack suited here. He's probably flatting King Jack some of the time here. Ace Jack and some hands like that. I think I will just fire a small one here until that happened, and now I'm going to fold. I would have just bet 29,000 and just hoped. It's interesting that he actually does. It's interesting that he does have aces, because that's one of the hands that he really kind of should have, flatting our open there, and just so happens that he did. So he might actually be a thinking player, because if he 3-bets our early position open, he looks super strong. And yeah, I mean, it was pretty close. 6. Very close spot here, bottom right. Could definitely jam it. I decided to go with the just the raise option. So raise first in is 36. Raise from early 17, middle 5, late 6. 40. It's a little bit on the loose side. 20, 30, 45. Slightly, but not that much. I mean, we're 7-handed. We've got a kind of a loose opener, and we've got the first pivot stack M7. I do think we get a reasonable amount of folds here, based on their opening range, and you know, sometimes we have the best hand. So, King 3 suited, probably just in the realms of callable. And we do have the gutser, but he's half potted. Pretty bad board. Just going to give it up. I think with the King of Diamonds I may have floated one. And if you get turn goes check, check, stab river and try and rep the ace. Definitely a reasonable line to take. You don't want to get carried away floating out of position all the time, but I think in a situation, you know, where you have a gutser like that, it's not too bad. Smallish c-bet again here. They don't have to work very often. Half pot, 33%. 3/4 pot, 43%. Full pot obviously has to work 50% of the time. And if you're betting really small, like, you know, well, third pot only has to work 25%, so. I will go for the barrel here. Try and fold a hands like 7s and 5s and the odd ace-10 float. We get pretty good leverage, and if he calls and the ace comes river, I'm probably going to shove. If it had come an 8 of clubs, I probably would shove on that card as well. Interesting that he has gone down the option of raising and putting in half his stack. I've actually seen this sometimes where players do it and then fold, but it does look very strong. And it does leave you wondering though what he actually does have there, doesn't it? But I just think no time back. 2 overs in the gut, so it's almost tempting just to shove it in. Kind of weird. Maybe he floated with like ace jack and then hit the jack, or jack 9 suited. I mean, he shouldn't really have hands like that, but then he is playing very loose, so maybe he can even have those hands, and maybe he can sometimes even have ace 3. Does he trap? Can he ever roll, you know, kings or something? I mean, it's not impossible. Pocket 9s, you know, flop to full house. Yeah, not impossible either, but I don't think he would raise that sizing on the turn if he was to raise, so it's kind of a bit weird. It's kind of hard to put him on a hand. He could, I guess, have had clubs. You know, he could have a flush draw, nut flush draw, or smaller flush draw, and if he does, you know, that's not too bad a line to take. Call flop raise turn. Yeah. But, I mean, we don't really need to get a stack depth of that size on that turn, I think. And just sort of get in a weird spot. He's opened short. This guy opened this stack depth before and had queens. I think he was slightly shorter. And now he's got 6s, so. Oof, and there is the 6. So, just kind of interesting that he's opening. I mean, I guess it's not that interesting. It's probably standard, but it just looked like he had hands both times, and he did. Is the only thing. But so I think opening with the Queen 9 is okay. Get pretty good leverage from these two. Nothing really to indicate yet that they have a particularly, you know, crazy aggression frequency. Of course, once you say that, you get 3-bet. This guy's really loose so far, but we don't have enough hands to say anything, to say too much about it all. But yeah, I think I'm just going to fold it. It's kind of annoying. 5-handed now, final table bubble. The King X, you know, King blocker. A little bit concerned about the big blind. You know, he's defending a little bit on the loose side, but not worried enough not to open it. We had a pretty good stack size, getting good leverage. Really classic endgame stuff that you're seeing right now. All about just leveraging stack sizes and picking up a lot of chips with, you know, out showdowns. Picking up a lot of dead money is the key to consistently final tabling and getting, you know, that deep. Wow, that is disgusting that this guy just shoves. Yeah, I mean, we're only M9, and I don't think he's doing it with Ace King and Ace Queen, so I think he can have Ace 10, Ace 9, King Jack, King Queen, and some small pairs, so I think I'm going to call off. There's the odd chance that he's actually scared shitless, which it looks like he was. Yeah, that's it's really annoying. I thought there was the odd chance he's just scared shitless of not final tabling, and just jamming Ace King, Ace Queen. Just scared to, you know, raise and see flops and stuff. And so just shoves, like, please nobody call, it's almost final table. It's a pretty tough spot. I mean, it's a big jam. He does have M8, 7 and 8 behind. I mean, it's not that big effectively. I mean, PN wise he would need a 24. I mean, Ace Jack is obviously 50, so I just think we're too strong to fold there, you know, to his jam. I think most of the time he's going to roll like 4s, 5s, 6s, which obviously isn't, I mean, it's okay. I mean, there's dead money out there already. We're not overly deep. Certainly the final table, the ICM is a consideration. But, you know, with the stack size we had, and the stack size we had and the prize money distribution, the way it's quite, I mean, serious money up the top here. We're really aiming to come up the top sort of 3 or 4 spots, and we're not really going to do that by folding. It's kind of annoying because we did have 300 and how much was it we had? Well, we actually had 450, so yeah, we were coming 6th. Yeah, it's pretty close. But to be honest, I mean, I just really thought we had him dominate a lot. I just did not think he's going to do it with Ace King and Ace Queen. Big pairs. I think it's safe to presume he would never do it with big pairs. So we should never be crushed with, like, you know, pocket 10s up. You know, it doesn't, well, I mean, you wouldn't presume it. But, you know, I could be wrong about that. Like I said, maybe he's just scared. But, I mean, it's just hard to imagine. The thing about it is he's got players behind that are likely to jam him a lot. You know, so he definitely really wants to be opening. It's interesting this player limped in with the 10s there. Obviously pretty ugly for us with the 9-10 suited, but I think calling for getting the price we were getting pre, and then obviously flopping top pair is just a bad flop for us. And he's so short, I mean, we're just not folding. But yeah, just going a bit more about that hand because it was kind of interesting. You know, from an ICM perspective, it's going to be a fold, but I just think that we become very dangerous if we get that double up there. I mean, we have almost 1 million in chips. We're, you know, the final table's looming. We're really going to be able to crush, I think, in that spot. We're really going to be able to crush with 1 million chips on this final, very soft final table. So I think that it actually increases our tournament EV a lot. In a vacuum, you know, the EV from an ICM point of view might not be great, but in terms of actually winning the tournament, I think we can do that a lot with that big 1 million stack, because that's something that ICM doesn't take into account. You know, the skill edge, skill factor. I think I'm actually just going to shove here, just tank and shove. But you could just 3-bet to, you know, well, actually no, I think I will just 3-bet. 60, maybe like 76. Yeah, give him a little bit of rope to play back with. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the call. I mean, Ace Queen up is an easy call. I think Ace Jack suited is an easy call. I think pocket 7s up is an easy call. Maybe 8s up. So, you know, Ace Jack is getting towards the borderline sort of mark. But at the same time, I mean, yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, I just really think that we have him, you know, crushed a lot, and that kind of sums up the day right there, doesn't it? You get through 8,000 players, you have a chance to get a big stack, you got the guy dominated, and he gets there. On the other table, you are dominated and you don't get there. It's a lose-lose situation. But no, I think we played pretty well throughout. And you just got to win those hands, you know, if you're going to win the tournament. You just got to hold up, and you got to get the odd sort of suck out. But it's just unfortunate that it happened in these tournaments with so deep. You know, this one final table bubble on the right and this one left was still 40 left, but that pot, of course, would have juiced us up to almost 1 million there too. And considering the field left, I think we would have seen some dominance, to be honest. I think we would have abused these guys pretty badly, especially because of the makeup of the stacks. And you know, that does create there is the argument, well, okay, if you think you can do so well against these guys, do you really want to sort of take a big flip with the ace jack off? And it's certainly a valid argument, because we still would have had a kind of close to average stack size, but at the same time, the average is actually 650 now, but at the same time, we don't really, with that stack size that we had, we don't quite have enough play. You know, it's a decent stack size, but it's only you know, 8.5 or 9, whatever it was. It's still only really, yeah, we can try and steal a couple of blinds, but if we lose a few more chips, we can't even do that because we'll be too short. You know, blinds go up, we're M5.5, 6. We don't really have a raise folding range. And so the other thing we can do is, you know, M8, we can 3-bet jam. It's not really a good stack for 20 bigs. 3-bet to folding, meh, it's getting pretty borderline. You can do it in specific situations, but is getting marginal for sure. So the point is that we're just losing the skill edge. We're losing our ability to 3-bet. We can't open and then get 3-bet and then 4-bet. We can't just, you know, keep stealing. I mean, we can still open fold at that stack size, but, you know, 1 or 2, say we open, big blind defends, we c-bet, he jams us, we have to fold. All of a sudden, we're down to M5 or 6. So my point is from a tournament life point of view, if we're about surviving, yes, we can fold the ace-jack, move up in pay, but from the point of view of trying to take over this tournament and win, we set ourselves up in a position where we have a lot of weapons in our arsenal. We have a lot of chips to play with, and you know, I know that the effective stack size is, you know, effectively there's a few shorter stacks around, so you know that doesn't always mean you can utilize your deeper stack. But I do think that it just would have just set us up, and we could even have taken a couple of hits and still, you know, just still have had a decent stack. So I don't really regret the ace-jack call. I do regret him waking up with, I think, the top of his range ace-queen when he does that. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the times it is going to be a flip, I guess, which isn't great for ICM. But yeah, I just think if we're about winning, I think that's just the key pot we got to go for. And like I said, I mean, I really felt we were going to have him crushed. I mean, I really felt like he had ace-10, maybe ace-9 suited, ace-8 suited, maybe king-jack suited, king-queen, those types of hands, which we're doing really well against. So, you know, we could have got lucky and binked. We didn't. Top left, we could have held, been a big threat in that one as well. We didn't, and so we are just down to this one tournament now, and we shall a bit battered and bruised. It's a bit frustrating to get that deep and have it in like that. 2 quick hands. You would have thought poker gods might have been nice enough to reward us with one, because we haven't been running well today. Reward us with at least one of those double ups, but it didn't happen. So we're just going to have to take out our anger and get some vengeance on this final $33 2 rebuy 1 add-on. There's only 1,500 up top, and there is a few good players left. We've got Vieira and Jean Grey, B. Paris, a few top players, but we shall battle until the very end. So join me again next time, and we'll see if we can make this final table at least, and see if we can at least finish off the day on a good note.